Beneath the waves lie entire cities that history nearly forgot. The story of our past is not only written on land, but also hidden in the silent, sunken ruins scattered across the globe. This is not just about the legend of Atlantis. Our planet is home to dozens of real submerged cities, each one a tangible piece of a lost chapter of civilization. These were advanced societies that thrived on coastlines, only to be claimed by the sea through disasters or rising waters. By the end of this journey, you will see human history through an entirely new lens. We will uncover why these cultures built in such vulnerable places and what their incredible ruins reveal about our own capacity for resilience. How does a civilization simply vanish beneath the water, and what secrets are we only now learning from the deep? What do you believe is the most important lesson a lost city can teach us? The Arabian Sea holds one of history's most profound underwater secrets. Off the coast of Gujarat lies the legendary city of Dwarka, a place long thought to be mere myth. Ancient Hindu texts describe it as the glorious capital of Lord Krishna, a city of unparalleled splendor built by divine command. The scriptures tell us that after Krishna left the world, the ocean rose and consumed his magnificent kingdom, leaving only stories behind. For centuries, these accounts were read as powerful allegory. Then marine archaeologists made a discovery that shook the historical world. They found it. Lying on the seabed were the remains of massive stone structures, vast enough to indicate a major urban center. They recovered pottery, artifacts, and stone anchors that dated back thousands of years, providing tangible evidence that the legend was rooted in a real, advanced civilization. The layout of the sunken ruins reveals a city built with remarkable foresight. There are signs of fortified walls and complex drainage systems, pointing to a society with a sophisticated understanding of urban planning and engineering. This was not a simple settlement. It was a thriving, organized port city, a hub of maritime activity whose existence challenges conventional timelines of Indian civilization. How does the physical evidence match the ancient descriptions? The correlation is startling, suggesting that oral and written traditions can preserve geological truths for millennia. Dwarka stands as a powerful reminder that our oldest stories may be memories, waiting for the waves to recede and reveal their truth. From a city lost to the sea, we now journey to one consumed by the earth itself. While the legend of Dwarka speaks to a city reclaimed by the sea, another ancient site offers a different kind of tragedy, one that unfolded not in a single cataclysm but in a slow, inexorable descent. Just off the coast of Naples, the submerged ruins of Baiae whisper of a different kind of loss. This was not a mythical kingdom, but a very real and notoriously opulent Roman resort, a playground for emperors like Nero and Julius Caesar. Here, the political and social elite of the empire built magnificent villas directly on the shoreline, complete with grand bathhouses, ornate mosaics, and sprawling gardens that stretched toward the Mediterranean. This was a place of legendary hedonism and power, where the most influential people in the ancient world came to escape and indulge. The cause of its demise was not a sudden tsunami, but the restless ground beneath it. The entire region sits atop the Campi Flegrei, a massive supervolcano whose gradual volcanic activity caused the land to sink centimeter by centimeter over centuries. The very thermal springs that fed the luxurious baths were part of the same geological force that eventually claimed the city. Seawater slowly infiltrated the streets and structures until the most prestigious address in the Roman world was permanently abandoned to the sea. Today, the bay is an underwater museum of breathtaking clarity. snorkelers and divers glide over stunningly preserved floors adorned with intricate mosaics. They pass the silent, stone gazes of statues depicting gods and emperors, now surrounded by fish instead of courtiers. The skeletal remains of thermal baths, with their advanced hydraulic systems and even evidence of heated floors, stand as a testament to Roman engineering genius, all framed by the surreal beauty of the marine environment. This creates a powerful, almost haunting contrast between the vibrant life that once filled these spaces and their current, serene emptiness. How did the Romans perceive this gradual sinking? Historical accounts suggest a mix of denial, adaptation, and ultimately acceptance. For a long time, they simply rebuilt and raised walls, fighting a battle they were destined to lose. Baiae serves as a timeless lesson about building in geologically active zones, a reminder that human ambition, no matter how grand, is no match for the patient, shifting power of the planet. It shows us that a civilization's downfall is not always a dramatic explosion, but can be a quiet, creeping surrender. From this lesson in slow-motion collapse, we now turn to a city that met a far more sudden and violent end. If Baiae's end was a slow surrender, Port Royal's was a cataclysm written in a single, violent day. Known across the 17th century Caribbean as the wickedest city on Earth, this Jamaican port was a chaotic, vibrant, and notoriously lawless haven. Pirates, privateers, and merchants operated openly in its crowded streets, creating a bustling economy built on plunder and trade. Then, on the 7th of June 1692, a massive earthquake struck. The ground liquefied beneath the city, and a tsunami surged in, dragging 2/3 of Port Royal into the sea within minutes. It was not a slow geological process, but a sudden, brutal act of nature that erased a pirate capital from the map. The very violence of its sinking created a unique gift for archaeologists. The city was buried so quickly in sediment and water that it was preserved in a state of remarkable detail, like a time capsule sealed by the ocean floor. Underwater excavations have uncovered entire streets, buildings with their walls still standing, and a stunning array of personal belongings left exactly where their owners dropped them. Researchers have recovered pewter tableware, delicate clay pipes, and even preserved wood and leather items that would have normally rotted away on land. These everyday objects offer a snapshot of daily life frozen in a moment of terror and chaos. What do these artifacts tell us about this infamous port? They reveal a society of stark contrasts and complex global connections. A single shipwreck in the harbor might contain goods from Europe, Africa, and the Americas, proving Port Royal was a critical node in a sprawling colonial trade network. The recovered possessions show a clear social hierarchy, from the simple wooden bowls of common sailors to the fine glassware and jewelry of the wealthy merchant elite who profited from their exploits. Port Royal's story is a powerful reminder that not all lost cities belong to the distant past. This was a modern, bustling settlement whose sudden end teaches us about the fragility of any society built on unstable ground, both literally and morally. Its fate forces us to ask how quickly our own centers of power and commerce could be rewritten by the planet's unpredictable forces. Now we journey to a site of an even greater mystery, where not just a city, but an entire civilization was lost to the rising seas. Far older than the legends of Greece's heroic age, a city sleeps in the shallow waters off its southern coast. Pavlopetri is not merely a sunken settlement. It is the oldest known submerged city in the entire world, a 5,000-year-old metropolis that predates the glory of classical Athens by millennia. Discovered in 1967, this Bronze Age town offers something unique among underwater ruins, a complete urban plan preserved on the seafloor. You can still trace the lines of its main streets, see the outlines of buildings, and walk through what were once courtyards and tombs, all just a few meters beneath the surface. This was not a village but a sophisticated port city. Its very layout, with what appears to be a central marketplace and organized residential districts, suggests it was a bustling hub of maritime commerce. Archaeologists have pulled artifacts from the site that tell a story of surprisingly far-reaching connections, pottery and tools that originated in Minoan Crete and the distant Cyclades Islands. This proves that long before the Parthenon was even a thought, a complex network of trade already linked the cultures of the Mediterranean. So what happened to this thriving port? The city's fate seems to have been sealed by the same geological forces that shaped the region. A series of powerful earthquakes likely damaged its foundations, while the relentless creep of rising sea levels finished the job, slowly flooding the streets until the city was completely abandoned. Could this slow drowning be the real-world event behind local myths of great floods, stories passed down for generations? Pavlopetri forces us to rewrite the early chapters of Greek history. It reveals a prehistoric world that was far more advanced and interconnected than we ever imagined. A world where maritime trade routes were already established thousands of years before the rise of the empires we study in school. How did these ancient people master their coastal environment, and what final disaster or gradual change forced them to leave their homes behind? This city provides no easy answers, only the silent, stony evidence of a lost chapter in human civilization. From the sun-drenched Aegean, our search for lost chapters leads us to the cold, dark depths of the Black Sea, where an entirely different kind of mystery rests on the seabed. The cold, dark waters of the Black Sea guard a secret that could rewrite our understanding of ancient myth. Here, at depths of over 100 meters, lie the remains of Neolithic villages, settlements that thrived on dry land more than 7,000 years ago. A unique environment has preserved them in stunning detail, an oxygen-free layer of water that has prevented wood, tools, and even human remains from decaying for millennia. This is not the slow sinking of Baiae or the sudden collapse of Port Royal. The evidence here points to a single, catastrophic event. Around 5,600 years before the Common Era, a natural dam at the Bosporus Strait is believed to have collapsed. The waters of the Mediterranean Sea then rushed in with unimaginable force, pouring into the vast freshwater lake that was the prehistoric Black Sea. The shoreline would have retreated by more than a mile each day, swallowing the fertile coastal plains where early farming communities had built their homes. Can you picture the scale of that event? A wall of water relentlessly consuming the land, forcing entire populations to flee for their lives with only the stories of the disaster to carry forward. This single, regional cataclysm may be the geological heart of a global story, the Great Flood. The narrative of a world covered by water appears in countless cultures, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to the biblical story of Noah's Ark. The discoveries in the Black Sea provide a stunningly plausible physical setting for these ancient tales. What do the ruins themselves tell us about the people who lived there? The preserved wooden huts, ceramic pottery, and stone tools reveal these were not primitive nomads but established, advanced farming societies. They had domesticated animals, cultivated crops, and developed the technology to build substantial villages. This was a cradle of early civilization, a lost world that was suddenly and violently erased from the map. The mass migration of these people, scattering inland with their knowledge of agriculture and their traumatic story of a world drowned, could have seeded the flood myths across Europe and Asia. These sunken villages are more than archaeological sites. They are a bridge connecting a tangible geological event to some of humanity's oldest and most enduring stories. But what happens when the flood is not an act of nature, but a deliberate decision of modern society? Our next chapter reveals a city that was sacrificed to water not by nature's hand, but by our own. Sometimes a city is not lost to nature's fury, but to human progress. Deep within China's Qingdao Lake, the Thousand Island Lake, lies the magnificent lion city, Sifting. This was no accidental drowning. In 1959, the Chinese government made a deliberate choice, flooding the valley to create a massive hydroelectric dam and reservoir. The rising waters slowly and completely submerged an urban treasure that had stood since the Eastern Han Dynasty, over 1,300 years ago. This was not a sudden collapse, but a planned, quiet burial to power the modern world. The city was a masterpiece of ancient Chinese architecture, a regional hub famed for its stunning stonework. Its name, Lion City, came from the nearby Wuxi Mountain, but its streets were adorned with intricate carvings of lions, dragons, and phoenixes, symbols of power and prosperity that watched over a thriving community. Grand arches, solemn temples, and elaborate city walls all disappeared beneath the new lake's surface. Yet this act of submersion created a paradox. The cold, clean, and remarkably still freshwater has acted as a perfect preservative. Shielded from sun, wind, and the damage of human habitation, Sifting is now frozen in a state of near-perfect conservation. For divers who descend into its silent streets, the experience is surreal. They glide past ancient stonework where the carvings remain so sharp and detailed they look as if they were completed yesterday. It is a ghostly, beautiful metropolis, a snapshot of imperial China preserved in a watery vault. This presents us with a profound and difficult question. What is the true cost of progress? The hydroelectric project brought power and economic growth to the region, a clear benefit for modern society, but it came at the expense of an irreplaceable cultural landmark. Sifting forces us to confront the trade-offs we make between development and heritage. Is one ever more valuable than the other? Ironically, its underwater fate has saved it from the pollution and urban development that might have eroded it on land. It stands as a unique monument to sustainable archaeology, a site protected by the very water that hid it. How do we decide what parts of our past are worth saving when the future demands a price? The Lion City offers no easy answer, only the silent, stunning evidence of what we gained and what we chose to leave behind. From this modern sacrifice, we travel to an ancient loss, where the Mediterranean Sea guards the sunken secrets of a pharaoh's most important port. The rediscovery of Heracleion is a story of legend made real. For over 1,000 years, this Egyptian port was considered a myth, a place mentioned by ancient historians like Herodotus but lost to the physical world. Then, in the year 2000, underwater archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team made a discovery that electrified the historical community. There, in the murky waters of Abu Qir Bay near Alexandria, lay the scattered remains of a city that had vanished beneath the waves. This was not a gradual sinking. The evidence points to a sudden, catastrophic collapse, likely when a massive earthquake caused the soft clay soil beneath the city to instantly liquefy. In a terrifying moment, entire stone temples and harbors were swallowed by the Mediterranean, leaving only a ghostly silence. The sheer wealth of artifacts recovered from the seabed is breathtaking. Divers have raised colossal statues of pharaohs and queens, some standing over 5 meters tall, their stone faces gazing upward as if still surprised by their aquatic tomb. They have found gold coins, delicate jewelry, and religious stelae, stone slabs inscribed with decrees. Perhaps most telling are the remains of more than 60 ancient ships found in the harbor, a fleet forever anchored on the seafloor. This was a bustling, cosmopolitan gateway where Egypt met the wider world. The artifacts provide undeniable proof of cultural exchange, with Greek pottery and Phoenician weights found alongside traditional Egyptian goods. This was the vital customs and trade hub through which goods and ideas flowed between Africa, Asia, and Europe. So what was the impact of its sudden loss? The disappearance of Heracleion would have been an economic catastrophe, severing a major artery of commerce and tax revenue for the Ptolemaic pharaohs. It destabilized the entire regional trade network, forcing a dramatic shift in maritime routes and contributing to the rise of its neighbor, Alexandria. How does a civilization recover from the loss of such a critical economic engine? The answer is slowly and with great difficulty. Heracleion stands as a powerful testament that even the most legendary places can be pulled from the shadows of myth, forcing us to reconsider the map of the ancient world. From this sunken Egyptian gateway, our search for lost structures leads us to the coast of Japan, where a mysterious underwater formation challenges everything we think we know about the ancient past. Off the coast of Japan's Yonaguni Island, the ocean floor holds a puzzle that defies simple explanation. A massive stone structure rises from the depths, its sheer faces forming what look like perfect terraces and stark right angles. Since its discovery in 1986, the Yonaguni Monument has divided scientific opinion. Is this a breathtakingly complex natural formation? Or are we looking at the ruins of a civilization lost to the rising seas at the end of the last ice age? The sheer scale of the structure is overwhelming, with monolithic platforms and steps that seem too symmetrical to be random. Those who argue for a human origin point to features that appear meticulously crafted, including what look like wide staircases, carved pillars, and even reliefs that resemble animals. They suggest this could be a monumental complex, perhaps a pyramid or a ceremonial center, built by the prehistoric Jaman people, a culture known for its sophisticated pottery and hunter-gatherer society. If proven to be man-made, Yonaguni would not just be another sunken city. It would force a complete re-evaluation of human history in the Pacific, pushing back the timeline for advanced stoneworking and large-scale construction by thousands of years. How can science possibly solve a mystery like this? Researchers use meticulous methods, analyzing the stone's fracture patterns to see if they are consistent with natural seismic activity or show signs of tool marks. They search for artifacts in the surrounding sand, any piece of pottery or a stone tool that could irrefutably link the structure to human hands. The debate itself is a powerful lesson in how we interpret the past. It challenges our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of and reminds us that the line between a natural wonder and a human artifact can be incredibly thin. The enigma of Yonaguni asks us to keep an open mind, to consider that the deep past may hold surprises we are only beginning to uncover. This search for lost indigenous history continues across the ocean, where the clear waters of a high-altitude lake conceal a sacred site. High in the thin air of the Andes, Lake Titicaca holds more than just the title of the world's highest navigable lake. Beneath its famously deep blue surface lie the sacred ruins of a civilization that viewed this water as the center of the cosmos. Underwater explorations have revealed a landscape of profound spiritual importance, with submerged temples, ancient roads, and vast quantities of ceremonial offerings resting on the lakebed. Archaeologists have recovered intricately crafted gold figurines, finely painted pottery, and containers made of precious stone, all deliberately placed into the water as gifts to divine powers. These were not lost items but votive offerings, a sacred dialogue between an ancient people and their gods. What does this deliberate act of placing treasure in the deep reveal about their worldview? For the Tiwanaku and earlier cultures, the lake was almost certainly seen as a point of origin, the very place where the world was born, and perhaps a gateway to the spiritual realm of the underworld. Its waters were not a barrier but a living, sacred entity. The gradual submersion of these sites was likely a slow process, driven by centuries of climatic shifts or the restless tectonic forces that constantly reshape the Andes. As the lake level rose over generations, these holy places were slowly reclaimed, their ceremonial roads and temple platforms descending into the realm of the deities they were built to honor. This creates a powerful connection between geography and belief, where the physical world and the spiritual world are one and the same. The ruins of Lake Titicaca stand as a timeless testament to humanity's deep, abiding reverence for water, not just as a source of life, but as a direct channel to the divine. This theme of a sacred landscape lost to nature's power finds a terrifying parallel in our next location, where an entire Mediterranean city was frozen in time by the fury of a volcano. The clear, turquoise waters of Crete's Bay of Elaunda hold more than just beauty. Just beneath the surface lie the sunken foundations of Olous, a city that thrived for centuries as a vital Minoan and later Greco-Roman port. Its strategic location made it a hub of commerce, connecting the powerful Minoan civilization with the wider Mediterranean world. Today, when the water is calm and the light is right, you can look down and see the ghostly outlines of ancient walls and streets, a submerged gridwork marking where a vibrant city once stood. The cause of its disappearance was not a single disaster, but the relentless grind of tectonic forces. The entire region is a geological mosaic of shifting faults, and the land beneath Olous slowly subsided over time, allowing the sea to claim it piece by piece. This was not a sudden cataclysm but a creeping crisis that unfolded across generations. How did the people living here respond to the gradual sinking of their own homes and public spaces? Archaeological evidence suggests a story of adaptation and resilience. They would have reinforced walls, raised floors, and rebuilt structures, fighting a slow and ultimately unwinnable battle against the encroaching sea. Their experience is a powerful echo of our own modern challenges with rising sea levels, a reminder that environmental instability is a force humanity has confronted for millennia. The very water that drowned Olous also preserved a remarkable record of its political life. From the bay, archaeologists have recovered stone inscriptions, some detailing complex treaties and legal codes between Olous and neighboring city-states. These are not just lists of rules, they are windows into a sophisticated society capable of diplomacy and organized governance, proving the Minoans were master administrators as well as seafarers. The city's ruins and artifacts stand as a profound testament to a maritime culture that was incredibly advanced for its time, with a network of trade and influence that stretched across the ancient world. Olous compels us to ask what legacies we are building today and how they might be read by future generations from the fragments we leave behind. Our voyage now takes us from the Mediterranean to the warm waters of the Persian Gulf, where the remains of a drowned city may hold the key to humanity's oldest stories. The warm, shallow waters of the Persian Gulf hide a lost world beneath their waves. Recent underwater surveys have mapped out the ghostly traces of ancient river channels that once cut through a vast, fertile plain. This was not always a sea. More than 7,000 years ago, this entire basin was dry, green land, a thriving habitat for early human communities. The discovery of stone tools and pottery fragments on the seabed confirms that people lived, hunted, and farmed here in a landscape that is now completely submerged. Some researchers now make a compelling connection. suggesting these sunken settlements could be the real-world basis for the legendary Dilmun civilization. In ancient Sumerian texts, Dilmun was described as a pure and blessed paradise, a land of immortality and a vital trading partner. It was a place where the sun god Utu rose, a land of fresh, sweet water. Could these poetic descriptions be memories of an actual, prosperous society that flourished on the Gulf's fertile plains before the ocean arrived? The timeline fits perfectly with a global climatic shift. As the last ice age ended, massive ice sheets melted, causing sea levels to rise relentlessly across the planet. The waters of the Indian Ocean slowly breached a natural sill and began to fill the Gulf basin. The once verdant plain was transformed into a rising sea, its rivers drowned and its settlements flooded over generations. This was not a single catastrophic event for most, but a creeping displacement that forced entire populations to abandon their ancestral homes. Where did these people go? The migration out of the drowning Gulf may have been one of the most significant population movements in ancient history. These refugees, carrying their knowledge of agriculture, social organization, and trade, likely moved northwest into the river valleys of Mesopotamia. Their arrival and integration could have provided a critical population boost and cultural infusion that helped spark the rise of the world's first cities, like and Uruk. This theory suggests that the very cradle of civilization was partly seeded by people fleeing a lost, drowned homeland. Does this connect to the oldest stories of a paradise lost? The Sumerian myth of a great flood and the later biblical tale of the Garden of Eden both describe a perfect, idyllic land from which humanity was expelled. The Persian Gulf sites present a stunning possibility that these foundational myths are not mere allegory, but distant, collective memories of a real, fertile land that was irrevocably lost to the rising seas. These sunken landscapes challenge our core understanding of early human history, suggesting that the first steps toward civilization were taken not just along known rivers, but on plains that now lie at the bottom of the sea. This exploration of a land lost to natural forces leads us to a site where submersion was a deliberate, sacred act. The legend of Sifting tells of a thriving village, a place of wealth and pride, until the sea took everything in a single night. During the All Saints' flood of 1570, a catastrophic storm surge shattered the dikes protecting the Dutch coast. The North Sea poured into the low-lying lands, swallowing the prosperous village whole. This was not a slow geological shift but a violent, sudden erasure that reshaped the map of the Netherlands forever. Local folklore gives this tragedy a moral dimension, claiming the flood was a divine punishment for the villagers' greed and arrogance. The story persists that the church bells of Sifting can still be heard ringing beneath the waves on stormy nights, a ghostly echo of a community's hubris and its swift demise. Today, the area is known as the Drowned Land of Sifting, a vast tidal marsh where the mudflats hold the secrets of the past. At the lowest tides, the outlines of old foundations and the ghostly grid of forgotten streets become visible, a haunting glimpse of a world lost to the water. This is more than an archaeological site. It is a landscape of memory, a permanent scar on the national consciousness. Sifting's fate is a single, poignant chapter in the Netherlands' epic and ongoing battle against the sea. For the Dutch, this struggle is not just a matter of engineering, it is central to their very identity, a constant reminder of the fragility of human endeavor in the face of nature's power. How does a community process the trauma of watching their homes and history vanish beneath the waves? The story of Sifting lives on in folklore and in the very soil, a memorial that asks us how we remember the places we have lost and what we learn from their silence. From this European story of a village claimed by water, we journey to a very different sunken city in the Caribbean, one whose ruins speak to a darker chapter of human history. The warm Caribbean waters off Nevis conceal a harbor that witnessed one of history's most brutal chapters. Beneath the sand and seagrass lie the ruins of a 17th-century port, a crucial hub in the vast and violent network of the transatlantic slave trade and the sugar industry. This was not a city of myth, but a hard-edged settlement built on exploitation, its fate sealed by the very environment it sought to conquer. Hurricanes and earthquakes, the constant threats of the region, pummeled the town over decades. Each storm surge and tremor eroded its foundations until the harbor and its structures were gradually abandoned to the sea. The artifacts recovered from this site are not just objects, they are fragments of silenced stories. Archaeologists have found shards of coarse, hand-coiled pottery that originated in West Africa, likely made and used by enslaved people. These sit alongside delicate European glassware and clay pipes, the possessions of the colonial merchants and plantation owners. The very soil of the seabed holds this stark contrast, a physical record of two worlds forced into a painful and unequal coexistence. What do these sunken materials reveal about daily life here? The African pottery speaks to cultural preservation, a quiet act of maintaining identity and tradition under the most oppressive conditions. The European goods illustrate the wealth extracted from sugar cane, a crop cultivated by enslaved labor. Nearby, the hulks of wrecked trading ships complete the picture, their rotting timbers a testament to the dangerous voyages that fueled this entire system. The submerged city of Nevis forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth, that the foundations of global trade and colonial wealth were often laid on the ocean floor, built by human suffering and vulnerable to nature's fury. This site provides a tangible, heartbreaking connection to lives that written history often overlooked. It underscores how environmental pressures and social structures were deeply intertwined, challenging the settlers' illusion of control over both the land and the people they oppressed. The legacy of this sunken port is a reminder that the waves hold not just lost cities, but lost voices. Our journey into drowned histories takes another turn, as we examine a Russian city sacrificed not to storms, but to the demands of industry. The deliberate flooding of Mologa presents a chilling contrast to the ancient sacrifices we have seen. In the 1940s, as the Soviet Union pushed for rapid industrialization, the town of Mologa and hundreds of surrounding villages were simply erased. The government ordered the creation of the massive Rybinsk Reservoir, a hydroelectric project meant to power its industrial ambitions, and the valley where Mologa stood was designated to be filled. This was not an act of nature, but a calculated decision by the state. The residents, numbering in the tens of thousands, were given a stark order to abandon their homes before the waters rose. They watched as their entire world was systematically dismantled, churches and homes were demolished, and the graves of their ancestors were exhumed and relocated. Then the floodgates opened and the waters poured in, submerging a centuries-old merchant town with its monasteries, bustling market squares, and community life under a new, artificial sea. The human cost was staggering, a profound trauma for an entire population uprooted in the name of progress. During periods of extreme drought, when the reservoir's water level drops significantly, the ghostly skeleton of Mologa re-emerges. The foundations of buildings, the old cobbled streets, and even the cemetery fences break the surface, offering a fleeting, heartbreaking glimpse of the life that was lost. These appearances are like a phantom limb, a physical ache of a place that refuses to be completely forgotten. How do we measure the value of a community against the demands of a nation? The story of Mologa forces us to confront the ethical boundaries of development. It asks who has the right to sacrifice a people's history, their sacred sites, and their very identity for a larger, state-defined goal. The silence of the submerged town speaks volumes about the fragility of human communities when faced with absolute power. It is a poignant memorial to all the places intentionally erased from the map, reminding us that progress, when untethered from compassion, can leave deep, hidden scars on the human landscape. This theme of a city lost to water for economic gain finds a different expression on the coast of North Africa, where a Roman port now sleeps beneath the waves. The Mediterranean floor near Tunisia holds the ghost of a city erased in a single afternoon. In 2017, a team of marine archaeologists surveying the coast of Madol made a stunning announcement. They had found the lost Roman city of Neapolis, its streets and monuments lying in the shallow sea, preserved for over 1,600 years. The culprit was a massive tsunami that struck in the 4th century, a wall of water that slammed into the coast and dragged a portion of the prosperous city into the deep. This was not a slow sinking or a gradual abandonment. Neapolis was a hub of industry and trade, and its destruction was as sudden as it was complete. The underwater ruins provide a chillingly clear picture of its final moments, frozen in time by the catastrophic wave. Among the most telling discoveries are the remains of a massive industrial complex dedicated to producing garum. This fermented fish sauce was the ketchup of the Roman world, a pungent, ubiquitous condiment prized by everyone from soldiers to senators. The scale of production here was staggering. Rows of vast concrete vats, some as large as swimming pools, are still visible on the seabed. These vats would have been filled with layers of fish, salt, and herbs, left to ferment in the sun for months. The resulting sauce was then bottled and shipped across the empire, a commodity so valuable it was a form of currency. How lucrative was this industry? A single facility like the one at Neapolis could supply entire provinces, generating immense wealth for the city's merchants and landowners. The loss of such a critical production center would have sent shockwaves through Roman trade networks. Prices for garum would have spiked, and supply chains stretching from North Africa to the distant frontiers of Britain would have been disrupted. This was more than a local tragedy. It was an economic disaster with imperial repercussions. How did the Roman authorities in Rome react to the news? Historical records from the era are sparse, likely because the empire was grappling with immense political instability at the time. There is no evidence of a massive imperial relief effort. The response was probably local and fragmented, leaving survivors to rebuild as best they could. The fate of Neapolis reveals a harsh truth about the ancient world. Even the mighty Roman Empire had limited capacity for disaster management when a catastrophe struck a distant province. The ruins offer a poignant snapshot of daily life abruptly interrupted. The layout of the streets, the design of the monuments, and the very tools used in the garum factories tell us this was a sophisticated, organized society fully integrated into the global Roman economy. Its destruction is a stark lesson in the vulnerability of our own interconnected world, where a single natural disaster in one key location can still ripple across the globe. From this Roman city claimed by the sea, we journey to the opposite side of the world, where the sunken ruins of Madol rise from the waters of Micronesia. The stone canals of Madol hold a mystery as deep as the ocean that now encroaches upon them. Built on the island of Pohnpei, this city is a labyrinth of over 100 artificial islets, all constructed from colossal basalt logs and crisscrossed by a network of waterways. It earned its nickname, the Venice of the Pacific, not just for its canals but for the sheer ambition of its creation. The sheer scale of labor involved is almost unimaginable. Each massive, prism-shaped basalt column, weighing many tons, had to be quarried, transported, and stacked with precision, all without metal tools or pulleys. This feat of engineering speaks to a society with a powerful, centralized authority, one capable of commanding a vast workforce for generations. This was the capital of the Sordalor dynasty, a ruling lineage that held sway over the island for centuries until its decline in the 1600s. But what kind of power did they wield here? The city's design provides a clear answer. The islets are divided into a ceremonial sector with grand spaces for rituals and the ruling elite, and a separate administrative sector for the practical matters of governance. This physical separation of sacred and secular power reveals a society where political rule was deeply intertwined with spiritual authority. The rulers likely derived their right to command from their connection to the gods, using the city's imposing architecture and complex rituals to reinforce their divine status. Madol was more than a capital, it was a theater of power designed to awe and control. Today, that theater is facing a new, relentless force. Rising sea levels, driven by our modern climate, are now washing through the ancient canals. Storm surges, growing more intense, are slowly undermining the very foundations that have stood for nearly a millennium. This partial submersion is a stark and immediate warning. It shows that the threat to our shared human heritage is not confined to the distant past or to cities already lost to the deep. The same waters that once provided these islanders with food and transport are now reclaiming their greatest achievement. What does the ingenuity of Madol tell us about cultures often left out of history books? It proves that advanced civilization and monumental architecture were not exclusive to Europe or Asia. The Pacific Islanders were master engineers and architects, creating a complex urban center that rivals any contemporary structure in its ambition and execution. Their story demands a broader, more inclusive view of human achievement. As the sea continues its slow advance, we are reminded that the lessons of these lost cities are not just historical, they are urgently present. From this Pacific marvel threatened by modern tides, we return to the ancient Mediterranean, where another city was lost to the persistent hunger of the coastline itself. The slow, patient surrender of a city to the sea is written in the stones of Aperlae. On Turkey's southern coast, this ancient Lycian settlement did not vanish in a day, but over countless generations, its ruins now resting in the clear, shallow waters of the Mediterranean. Aperlae's wealth was born from a single, precious resource, the murex snail. Harvested from the sea, these shellfish were crushed in vast vats to produce a vibrant purple dye, a color so rare and expensive in the Roman world that it became synonymous with imperial power and immense wealth. The very industry that built Aperlae relied on the ocean that would eventually claim it. The land here is slowly sinking, a gradual seismic subsidence coupled with the relentless creep of rising sea levels that began centuries ago. So how does a community respond when its home is being taken by the water, not in a violent cataclysm, but in a slow, inexorable embrace? The archaeological record shows a society in constant, clever adaptation. As waterfront structures flooded, the inhabitants did not simply abandon them. They raised the floors, built new walls on top of the old, and reinforced their sea defenses. They transformed their ground floors into basements and shifted their daily life upward, a continuous, pragmatic battle against the encroaching tide. Their harbor, vital for exporting the precious dye, was repeatedly modified and extended as the shoreline changed. This was not a story of panic, but of profound resilience. Can you envision the patience required, watching the sea claim your city inch by inch over the course of a lifetime, and the determination to simply build higher? Today, snorkelers glide over a hauntingly beautiful landscape. Submerged city walls run like stone pathways across the seabed. Elaborate Lycian tombs and sarcophagi, once standing on dry land, now rest beneath the surface, their lids home to corals and schools of darting fish. This creates a uniquely accessible window into a slow-motion environmental process, one that mirrors the challenges faced by coastal communities today. Aperlae stands as a powerful case study in long-term adaptation, proving that human societies can persist for centuries even as their world literally sinks around them. It forces us to ask what strategies we might employ if faced with a similarly gradual, unstoppable change. Our journey into sunken trading hubs now takes us to a pre-colonial port in the Philippines, where the waters guard the legacy of a sophisticated maritime network. The murky freshwater of Laguna de Bay holds the foundations of a society that history nearly erased. Sonar imaging has mapped out the ghostly grid of a pre-Hispanic settlement, its structures and artifacts resting on the lakebed since the 10th century. This was not an isolated village, but a sophisticated trading port for the Tagalog people, a hub connected to a vast maritime network. Archaeologists have recovered ceramics and porcelain that originated in China, along with goods from other Southeast Asian kingdoms, proving this was a vibrant node in a web of commerce that stretched across the ocean. How did a bustling port end up submerged in a lake? The cause was likely the restless earth itself. Tectonic shifts could have altered the lake's level over centuries, or a sudden seismic event may have caused the ground to sink, allowing the water to slowly claim the streets and homes. This discovery shatters a long-held colonial narrative. For generations, Philippine history was often said to begin with the arrival of Spanish ships in the 16th century. The sunken city tells a different story, one of a rich and complex civilization that was already thriving, trading, and organizing itself centuries before European contact. What can the layout of this underwater site reveal about its people? The presence of a structured port implies a society with social stratification, specialized labor, and the political organization necessary to maintain long-distance trade relationships. This was a culture with its own identity, its own economy, and its own place in the world. The ruins in Laguna de Bay compel a profound re-examination of Southeast Asian history, not from the deck of a galleon, but from the perspective of the indigenous cultures who built their world upon these shores. This theme of a medieval port lost to the sea finds a powerful echo thousands of miles away on the other side of the world. The ghost of Dunwich lies beneath the cold, grey waves of the North Sea, a testament to the patient hunger of a coastline. This was no mythical kingdom, but a thriving medieval powerhouse, a capital of the Anglo-Saxon kingdom of East Anglia, and one of England's most important ports. For centuries, it was a center of trade and religion, its skyline dotted with churches, monasteries, and a harbor teeming with ships. Then the sea began to take it back. A series of colossal storms in the 13th and 14th centuries, combined with relentless coastal currents, began to claw at the soft cliffs upon which Dunwich was built. Great chunks of the town, including entire parishes and their churches, crumbled into the water over generations, a slow-motion disaster that transformed a major urban center into the tiny village that exists today. How did its inhabitants respond to watching their world literally disappear piece by piece? They fought back with seawalls and pleaded for royal funds, but ultimately they were forced to retreat, moving their homes and their lives inland, leaving their history to the deep. Modern marine archaeologists have used advanced sonar to map the seabed, creating a stunningly detailed digital model of the lost city. This virtual map reveals the sunken grid of its medieval streets, the foundations of its lost churches, and the skeletal outline of the harbor that once made it rich. It is a ghost in the machine, a precise cartography of absence. Dunwich's fate is a powerful, centuries-long lesson in coastal erosion, a process that is not a relic of the past but a clear and present danger to countless communities around the world today. Its story is one of resilience measured not in victory, but in the dignified, heartbreaking act of letting go. The slow loss of Dunwich asks us how we will face our own shifting shores and what we are prepared to leave behind. Our journey through these lost worlds now brings us to a final, legendary name, a city that has come to symbolize the ultimate mystery of all sunken civilizations. Atlantis is the ghost that haunts every map of the deep. No physical evidence for Plato's legendary island has ever been found, and most academics firmly regard it as a philosophical fable, a cautionary tale about the dangers of imperial pride. Yet its cultural power is undeniable, a myth that has launched 1,000 ships in search of its truth. This story of an advanced civilization, blessed with impossible technology and wisdom, only to be punished by the gods and swallowed by the sea in one terrible day and night, touches something deep within us. It is the ultimate story of a golden age lost. How has this single myth shaped our entire approach to underwater archaeology? It has provided the foundational quest, the romantic impetus that drives explorers to look beneath the waves not just for pottery shards but for paradigm-shattering secrets. The dream of Atlantis pushes researchers to ask bigger questions, to consider that the human story might be far older and more mysterious than our textbooks allow. This legend resonates so powerfully because we have now seen its echoes in reality. We have witnessed the sudden collapse of Port Royal, the catastrophic flooding of the Black Sea Basin, and the engineered perfection of sunken cities like Xicheng. Atlantis embodies the core themes that connect all these sites: the interplay of human ambition, environmental vulnerability, and the thin line between a society's peak and its disappearance. The search for Atlantis, ultimately, is a search for meaning in these ruins. It is the recognition that every real sunken city we uncover adds a fragment of truth to that enduring legend, proving that the fall of a great civilization is not just a philosophical idea, but a recurring chapter in the human story. These sunken cities, scattered across time and ocean, speak with a single voice about the human condition. Their stories are not isolated tragedies, but interconnected chapters in a grand narrative of civilization. From the trading hubs of the Mediterranean to the sacred ports of the Pacific, a clear pattern emerges, one of profound vulnerability and astonishing resilience. These societies flourished on the coastlines, drawn by the promise of trade, travel, and resources, yet this very proximity to the water made them exquisitely sensitive to the planet's moods. A single earthquake, a gradual shift in sea level, or a violent storm could undo centuries of progress in a moment. This is not a lesson about the past, but a stark mirror for our own era, as modern megacities built on vulnerable coasts face the same rising tide. The ingenuity on display is equally universal. The people of Aperlae raised their floors against the encroaching sea, just as the builders of Madol moved mountains of stone to create their aquatic capital. This drive to adapt, to engineer solutions against overwhelming natural forces, is a fundamental thread connecting us to our ancestors. Their successes and their failures are a blueprint for our own future. These lost cities were often the globalized centers of their day. The pottery from China found in the Philippines, the Greek coins in Egyptian Heracleion, the Minoan artifacts in Pavlopetri, all whisper of a world that was deeply interconnected long before the term globalization was ever coined. Trade routes carried more than just goods. They carried ideas, technologies, and beliefs, weaving a complex tapestry of human culture across vast distances. The disappearance of one of these hubs, like Heracleion, did not just destroy a city, it severed a vital artery in the network, forcing a painful and costly reorganization of the entire system. This reminds us that our own modern global supply chains, for all their technological sophistication, are just as fragile when faced with a major disruption. Perhaps the most poignant legacy is the spiritual connection to water that so many of these cultures shared. For the people of Lake Titicaca, the water was a sacred gateway to the gods. For the folklore of Sifting, it was an instrument of divine punishment. Water was not merely a resource or a threat, it was a living, spiritual force, a source of life that could also bring death. This reverence stands in stark contrast to our often utilitarian view of the oceans and rivers today. What is the ultimate lesson these silent stones hold for us? They teach that civilizations are not permanent. They are dynamic entities constantly in a dance with their environment. Their ruins are monuments not to failure, but to the enduring human spirit, to our capacity to build magnificent worlds and then, when necessary, to adapt, to move, and to begin again. They are a call for humility in the face of nature's power, and a testament to the incredible resilience woven into the fabric of our species. As our own world changes, these sunken cities become more than archaeological sites. They are ancient guides, urging us to learn from the past as we navigate an uncertain future. Our journey through 20 sunken cities has revealed a lost chapter of human history, a chronicle written not on paper, but in stone and sediment beneath the waves. We have walked the submerged streets of Pavlopetri, the oldest known city on the seafloor, and witnessed the modern tragedy of Mologa, a town sacrificed to industrial ambition. Each site, from the pirate haven of Port Royal to the sacred waters of Lake Titicaca, tells a unique story of innovation, catastrophe, and mystery. Together, they form a powerful mosaic, illustrating the universal truth that civilizations, no matter how grand or seemingly permanent, are part of a continuous cycle of rise and fall. They leave their clues in the most unexpected of places, waiting for the curious to uncover their silenced stories. The exploration of these underwater worlds does more than just expand our history books. It underscores an urgent, pressing need to preserve our fragile cultural heritage against both natural forces and human-made threats. As our own climate changes and accelerates sea level rise, the lessons from these sunken cities are no longer distant history. They are a stark warning and a guide. The patient adaptation of Aperlae and the sudden erasure of Neapolis offer two different blueprints for our future, challenging us to build with greater foresight and a deeper respect for the power of the natural world. Let this exploration inspire you to look closer at the stories hidden in our landscapes and seascapes. Our shared past holds keys to navigating our collective future. We must ask ourselves what treasures we are creating today and how we can protect them for the generations to come. Thank you for diving into the depths with us. If this journey through lost worlds resonated with you, we would be grateful if you shared your thoughts in the comments below. Which of these submerged cities captures your imagination the most?